Welcome to Rewiring Health. If you're a high-achieving woman feeling trapped in the endless cycle of guilt and exhaustion from always putting others first, then this is your sanctuary. I'm Dr. Kelly Kessler, your dedicated empowerment mentor, and I'm here to tell you that it's time to reclaim your peace, health, and happiness. Imagine waking up every day feeling energized and unapologetically living for yourself. Together, we'll break down the walls that have been holding you back and unlock the vibrant, unstoppable force that you truly are. It's time to put yourself first, embrace your authentic self, and live a life that's not just endured, but celebrated. Now let's dive in. Alcohol is so frequently used and advertised as something to just take off the edge. When you're feeling stressed, it's something that you can have that glass of wine at night and just kind of ease yourself out of the day. But it can become a very slippery slope. As stress levels increase, then that one glass of wine becomes two, and then before you know it, it becomes this normal routine. And in this episode, I have Silvia Subriana, who will share about alcohol as a coping mechanism, the shame and guilt that can happen around it, and what our subconscious beliefs are underneath it all that may be driving this behavior, and how we can start to release ourselves from that and actually navigate stress at its root, understand why we're feeling the way we're feeling, and how we can release ourselves from that and live a life of more peace and harmony. Silvia Subriana is a clinical psychologist and the head of content development at Unconscious Moderation, an innovative app designed to help users take control of their relationship with alcohol. But it's so much more than that. helps people discover greater meaning, happiness, and fulfillment in their lives so they can become a healthier version of themselves. To help users achieve this, the app integrates tools like hypnotherapy, journaling, reading, and many other exercises to support lasting change. Silvia shares so much value in this episode in understanding ourselves better, understanding stress, and why alcohol has become such a common coping mechanism for stress, and what we can do to really release ourselves from it. All right, welcome back to another episode of Rewiring Health. I'm so honored to have Silvia Subriana on the podcast today. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here too.
Yes, this is going to be a topic that I know is going to speak to so many of us, especially when we're working hard. And it's like sometimes you get home and it's like that glass of wine that you reach for that just seems so appealing to like take off the edge. I can't tell you how many people who have said that to me, like, I just need my glass of wine at night, just to take off the edge. But there's so much more that goes into that. And so what I would love to just start with is, why do so many people reach for alcohol, whether it's all the way to like alcoholism or just like a glass of wine here or there? Why has alcohol become such a coping mechanism for people?
There are many reasons for that. The first one is that it's very normalized. You see it everywhere. We
Mhm.
see it in like restaurants, everyone, or like most of the tables have a drink on the table. We see it in obviously parties, in bars, in every scenario possible, in barbecues, in even workplaces. Sometimes we have like wine, right? People close deals with wine or with beer or something like that. So it is extremely normalized, and we see it all the time, not only in our real lives but also in movies and series and stuff like that. So we believe that it's just another tool, right? That it's accessible, it's very, very accessible, and it's very normalized. And sometimes you're even the weird one if you don't drink. So it is that level of normalized, right? And that obviously plays a huge role in it. But also it's a very good numbing tool. So we think that we're dealing with our stress, or it's helping us wind down, as you said. But in reality, it's not helping us. Yes, it's numbing our emotions, so they're going away, but it's fake because you're numbing them and they're going to come back. Sometimes even stronger than before,
Mhm.
because everything that goes like up goes down, so everything that goes to one side, it needs to go to the other, right? So people keep using it as a tool to wind down because yes, in the moment it feels great, and we are very we live very short-lived, like we look very short term, right? So we're like, okay, this is going to help me right now in the next, I don't know, half an hour, so I want this. And if we have to work on something that it might take, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks, a month, 6 months. We're like, oh no, this is too far away. I want it now. We are in a world where we have everything now. Amazon drops us parcels in like 2 hours if we want. So we need things right now. And obviously, anything related to health, physical, mental, anything needs time. We cannot get it done in a second or like click the fingers and then it's done, right?
Mhm.
So that's why it's very, very difficult for people to understand that things take time and take patience and work, right? So instead of just working on different tools that might be healthy, they just reach out for the easiest option, an accessible option, because it's very, very accessible, as I was saying before. And they just have that glass of wine or two or the whole bottle.
Yeah.
So that's what a lot of people do. And I think that loads of people don't realize the impact that has in their lives in general, because that might be the reason why the next day they're more irritable. They have less patience with their kids, for example, or with their partners, or at work, right? And why they feel like they have a fog in their brain, and many, many, many other things that actual like the alcohol actually is impairing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So relatable and so true. And I've seen it so many people I've worked with. And one aspect of that, is that like slippery slope. It becomes like one glass and then, the two and then the bottle, like you mentioned. One thing I've heard from so many women I've worked with is like this aspect of shame. Like they're in this pattern of drinking, but then they also feel very shameful for it. Like they recognize that they shouldn't be reaching for the glass of wine, but yet they do. Can you talk about that, how that contributes to it, where we're feeling shameful for grabbing the glass of wine, but yet we continue to do it and it just kind of spirals us.
Yeah, I believe as related to what I was saying before, people don't have the tools because don't um we don't spend the time to actually work on those tools and have different tools in our toolbox, right? So we reach for that glass of wine or as many glasses of wine as people do, and we feel bad because we know that that is actually not helping us, and we're not targeting or we're not addressing what is happening, right? We're just numbing. And a lot of people feel shameful about it because they know that. However, they don't know how to change it. They don't know what to do instead of reaching for that glass of wine or that bottle of wine, right? So I think that the problem with shame is that it gets very rooted to our self-perception and our self-esteem. So there's this massive difference between guilt and shame, because guilt is more external and shame is more internal. And what does that mean? We live guilt in a not in a personal way. Like, for example, I've made a mistake and I say, okay, I failed. I did this wrong and I have to improve in this, this, and that. But as you notice, I'm not saying anything about me. I'm just saying that I have failed, that I made a mistake, and that mistake is external from me. But shame is very personal. Instead of saying I have failed, I say I am a failure. Instead
Mhm.
of saying I need to improve, it says I am not enough. I'm not enough to do this. I am not capable enough.
Mhm.
So when guilt can actually be a tool for us to grow and say, okay, I need to improve in this, shame actually pushes deeper in the hole, right? And makes us feel even worse and worse and worse about ourselves.
Mhm.
So I think that making this differentiation for people is key, because when they realize what they're telling themselves, like for example, I'm stressed and I've dealt it with wine, right? I had wine to numb my emotions and to make myself feel better, even though I know that it's not going to help me eventually. I failed or I did this and I know that it's not going to help me and this blah blah blah. That would be more guilt. But I'm a failure. I cannot do this. I am the worst. Blah 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 blah. That is shame. So
Mhm.
targeting those that self talk and changing it little by little. So changing the dialogue can really help in people understanding that they need to get out of that hole of blaming themselves, because no, they're doing the best they can with the tools that they have. And right now, they might not have any tools to address that stress apart from that wine. So
Mhm.
the first step is to not put the blame on themselves and say, okay, I made this mistake because I don't have the tools. I am not the worst. And a lot of people are exactly the same position as me. I am not a failure. I am just doing the best I can with what I have. So
Yes.
changing little by little this idea and this dialogue that you have with yourself is key. So then you can actually target that and say, okay, how can I actually address that stress, that anxiety, that all those feelings that are becoming too much for me, that are leading me to actually drink?
Yeah, absolutely. That self-compassion is so powerful when you approach it from that of like, how can I do this through loving myself rather than like berating myself for a choice
Exactly.
I'm making. I absolutely love that. Going off of that, can you talk about willpower? Because lots of people will be like, I'm not going to do it. They'll set this goal, but then like end up going back to the old patterns. Can you talk about why willpower is maybe not the best choice in making long-term changes?
Willpower alone can
Hmm.
only take you so far
Hmm.
because we as humans, when we grow up, we identify different things from our lives and then we create different patterns that our minds identify as this is going to keep me safe, this is going to protect me. And
Hmm.
sometimes these patterns are very helpful when you are a kid and when you're adult, but then some patterns can be helpful when you're a kid, but then when you grow up, they're not helpful at all. And they make you feel stuck in situations and they're not helping you get out of these cycles, right? Then you feel a lot of people say, I feel like I keep living my life on repeat, only with different characters, right? Like different people, but I keep having the same like problems, the same mistakes and everything. And I'm like, yes, because you're not breaking the pattern. And when it comes to drinking alcohol, that is a huge, that plays a huge role because again, if we deal with stress with alcohol, maybe there's a pattern of, I don't know, at home we don't talk about our emotions, we don't address this. I have to be overachieving. I always have to be perfect, right? There's this control, there's this perfection that happens a lot in the people that you see, as you told me before, and in the people that I see as well that I work with. So this high achievement is this pattern, and you're not getting out of it because in order to be high achieving, you need to wind down at some point. And the way to wind down might be that alcohol that you're taking, right? So realizing the pattern that you're in is key to then make changes and start changing that pattern and rewiring your brain little by little. Because with willpower, it's very difficult to actually get out of that pattern if you don't realize what is going on and what is the cycle that you're stuck in and that you keep repeating, right? And I always say that realizing your pattern and being aware of what you do, what you're repeating in your life is 50% of the work done.
Hmm.
Knowing and accepting that pattern, because
Hmm.
knowing about it and accepting it can go hand by hand, but not always.
Yeah.
So accepting that you're doing that, even if it hurts, to
Hmm.
yeah, to say yes, okay, I keep doing that because of this and that, is 50% of the way done, because then you're open to rewiring your brain. You're open to shifting those patterns and to considering other options. But again, this takes time and this takes a lot of self-reflection and patience because you have to look inwards. And yes, it can be very painful, and a lot of people can be very scared of doing that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, change is very difficult. It's, we're wired to do the same thing over and over again, even if it's not self-serving. So it can be really tough to go through that and overcome that resistance that we have internally. And can you talk about that? Like, as far as the app, where does someone begin? Like, does that all part of the app where you can start to dive into some of the subconscious patterns that you're holding on to?
So basically, the app is a 90-day program. And then in the first 30 days, we encourage people to not drink at all, to have that sort of reset, right? And then on day 30, they will be able to choose if they want to learn how to moderate their consumption or if they want to completely quit during the rest of the challenge, right? On the other 60 days. So they do 90 days of no alcohol.
Mhm.
Um, and the way that we do that with rewiring those subconscious patterns is we work with the unconscious mind and we work with the conscious mind, and we do 30 minutes a day, 15 minutes of unconscious work and 15 minutes of conscious work. The way that we work with the unconscious mind is through hypnotherapy. And when I talk about this, a lot of people get scared and they're like, oh no, I've seen like very weird things in movies or in theaters where, I don't know, people swing a pendant in front of someone's face, they cut their fingers and they start acting like a chicken. That is not it. That is not how it works. So in hypnotherapy, in the type that we do, it's a 15-minute audio. So people put headphones in and then they just listen to this voice. So it's very similar to relaxation and meditation, breath work, and stuff like that. So first, you listen to the voice, and it brings you to a deep state of relaxation where all your worries dial down the intensity. But again, you are conscious, you are aware of what's going on. So you never lose that consciousness. And I think that for people that don't like losing control, that is a good thing to say, because yes, you're not going completely numb and not realizing what you're doing. You're actually aware of everything that you're listening to. So in that deep state of relaxation, the difference between meditation and hypnotherapy is that in hypnotherapy, we go into a deep state of suggestion. So instead of associating stress to wine, as we were saying before with that example, your mind starts getting a bit open and knowing or understanding there are more options to that. So next time you're stressed, you might not automatically think about alcohol. Maybe you'll think about calling a friend, or maybe you'll think about going to the gym or playing with your kids or baking a cake or whatever you like doing, right? But it just opens the mind. And yes, you might consider alcohol as well, but it's not that automatic, right? It's not like cause effect, like I have stress, then I need alcohol. You have more options and you feel like you are more in control of what you can actually choose, and it doesn't control you, right? So it's very powerful because of that. And we don't realize that our minds are doing that because it's an unconscious work, right? And only by us listening to those suggestions, our mind understands that there are more options. Because when we are centered in one thing, like for example, if someone is obsessing about, as you were saying before, someone drinks alcohol because they don't have any other tools to deal with stress, but then they feel ashamed that they do that, they are centered, they're centering the problem in alcohol. So all they're thinking about is alcohol. So their minds don't understand that that is not something that they want to stop doing, that there's something they don't want to get rid of, but their minds are constantly thinking about alcohol. They have that image. For example, if I say now, think of a yellow taxi, everyone has a yellow taxi in their minds. And if I all the time I kept saying yellow taxi, yellow taxi, yellow taxi, you're going to have that in your mind a lot. Or for example, when you want to buy a new car and then you say, okay, I like this model. Out of nowhere, you start seeing them everywhere. That is because your mind is putting the attention in that. So if we put that attention in alcohol, the only thing that we're going to be thinking of is that alcohol. So going back to hypnotherapy, like dialing down that intensity in our thoughts in alcohol and just bringing more options to the table can be very, very helpful for people to say, okay, I can relax because I have more options. I don't depend on alcohol exclusively to deal with that stress, right? And then we combine this with conscious work, with journaling, with reading, and a little bit of movement, and it's also 15 minutes. And so then people can actually understand their patterns and work in everything that we're working with the unconscious mind that they might not realize that they're working on, right? So in the journaling, for example, we put them in different scenarios and different situations where they have to choose. Everything is correct. Like there's no right or wrong answers. There's just different scenarios or different answers that lead them to different things, so that they can realize what patterns they're using and they're stuck in, so then they can address them as well. Because as we say, knowledge is power. knowing how you act and your triggers and your patterns and all that can actually lead you to a massive change.
Yeah, and so empowering, the power of the mind when you can start to change those patterns and then you just see life through a different lens. You see yourself through a different lens. It's so amazing how you can literally transform yourself and in that process become a different person in that. And through that, for someone who's listening and they're like, I have the occasional drink, but I just enjoy it. I find joy in it. I don't know if I'm doing it for stress. Like, can you differentiate or kind of speak to that person? Like, how do we know if this is something that we're using as a coping mechanism and that the stress is bringing it about, or if it's just someone who's like, I just like the taste of alcohol and I just have it occasionally?
So something that really works, and I always say to everyone that I help with and that I work with and I help, is stop yourself right before ordering that drink
Hmm.
and think, why? Where is this coming from?
Hmm.
Is it coming from me wanting that drink because I am in the mood for a drink and I haven't had a drink in a while? That's completely fine. I am never going to demonize alcohol. I'm never going to blame anybody that drinks alcohol. And from unconscious moderation, we don't blame anybody because we understand that people live their own lives, right? And people make their own choices. However, if that why comes from I'm stressed and I'm just trying to avoid what happened at work or what happened at home or what
Hmm.
many other things, then that you might be obviously numbing and you might need to reconsider how you're
Hmm.
using alcohol. Or if it can be for many other reasons. It doesn't need to be that deep. Sometimes we just want to feel included because
Hmm.
everyone around us has alcohol in their hand. Like they have a glass of wine or they have, I don't know, a cocktail or something like that. And we just want to feel included
Yeah.
because we don't want to be the weird ones.
Hmm.
Oh, or sometimes there's just, I don't know, you're in a hot day and you just want something refreshing and you want that, I don't know, mojito.
Hmm.
So there are many, many, many reasons why, and they don't need to be that deep.
Hmm.
Like I am dealing with, I don't know, a situation that is very, very hurtful and I'm using alcohol to distract me from it. It can be very, very easy as I just want something refreshing. But then when people actually realize the reason why they're having that craving,
Hmm.
most of the times they realize that it's not because they're just in the mood for that specific drink. They just want something else. And when they change that, or when they address that, and they, for example, if I want something refreshing, I say, okay, instead of having a mojito, and have a virgin mojito.
Hmm.
And then a lot of people say, I actually just wanted that freshness, right?
Hmm.
Or I actually just wanted to feel included. But if I have a mocktail in a fancy glass, then
Hmm.
I already feel included,
Yeah.
right? So there are many, many options out there
Hmm.
that I always encourage people to try
Hmm.
because again, a lot of people don't want to have the talk of why are you drinking? Why are you not drinking? Why are this? Are you sick? Are you pregnant?
Hmm.
Especially for women, we are bombarded with these questions and it is very annoying because sometimes you don't want to talk about it. You just want people to leave you alone,
Yeah.
especially when you're surrounded by people that are not probably your closest friends. Because
Mhm.
with your closest friends, maybe you can talk about this, but
Yeah.
with random people or with like, I don't know, coworkers or stuff like that, like you just don't want to talk to them about it. So having that alternative that is non-alcoholic, but that can make you feel included might actually solve all the issue.
Mhm.
And you are just happy and it's giving you exactly what you need, which is that feeling of being included, that freshness, and many, many different things that you might be craving.
Yeah, and it's so nice that there are so many more options because it is like those assumptions that other people make and the explanations, and it becomes this like such an effort sometimes just when you're making a healthier choice for yourself. But yeah, there is something around alcohol where you always have to explain yourself if you're not the one drinking, which is
Mhm.
it's so societally driven. It's crazy. Yeah. And can you talk about like for someone who, maybe used alcohol as a coping mechanism, dealt with stress with that, and then they went through that 30 days even without alcohol. Can you talk about their experience from like what they're experiencing mentally and emotionally to after 30 days without alcohol, any changes that they experienced mentally and emotionally?
So the reason why we say 30 days, it's because there are many challenges out there, like dry January, sober October, where people stop drinking for 30 days. And they have been proven to be very effective because they give a reset to the body. The body resets and says, okay, I can actually have a healthier sleep pattern. I can concentrate better. My blood, like the blood pressure goes down, and many, many different things in your body start working better. So
Mhm.
those 30 days can actually feel really good for someone that is drinking quite frequently.
Mhm.
So that's why from our program, we wanted to focus on that because we wanted to give people that break and say, okay, if you're going to moderate, if you're going to keep drinking, at least give yourself this break because we know that it's effective. It's been proven many times by many scientists. So give yourself this break, and giving yourself a 30-day break from time to time is very,
Mhm.
very effective. Because again, they're going to start probably on the first week or maybe 2 weeks, depending on the person, their symptoms might become worse because they are used to having that glass of wine when they're stressed, or having that cocktail or that, I don't know, whiskey or whatever when they cannot fall asleep, or many, many different things, right? But so on the first days, the body is used to that, so it's gonna crave that. But then when you go past that, your body starts saying, okay, I can actually work without these substances. I can actually work even better than I
Yeah.
was doing before while I was consuming all this, right? And people really do feel the changes and everything. And that's why when we implement the unconscious mind work, like the hypnotherapy, people see benefits and changes in less than 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And as I was saying before, in a very impatient world, 2 weeks is very short term when we talk about mental health and changing habit, changing patterns. That is a very short term goal, right? Again, obviously, you're not gonna um, get 100% like no guilt, no alcohol, no nothing in 14 days. No, but you're going to start seeing the changes.
Mhm.
And something that is very um, frustrating for people that are in this journey, and maybe they've tried to reduce alcohol in their lives before, but they've always gone back to old habits. Um, Having this shift in only 14 days can be very, very encouraging, because when they tried in the past, maybe they went on this journey for months and they didn't see that shift. They didn't
Mhm.
see any improvement. So that's why working with the unconscious mind, realizing on the patterns, like taking accountability of your patterns and working on that, um, we have seen a lot of people actually say, this really works. I am more excited, like I'm excited to continue with this journey because I'm actually seeing the results,
Mhm.
right? So obviously, as to respond your question in like very summed up, 30 days is always beneficial,
Mhm.
but it's not completely beneficial if you are waiting and counting down the days to go back to old habits. It's even more beneficial if you actually put on the work,
Mhm.
like the work that we offer. And then you can actually change your habits and work on yourself. So then you can choose better, make better decisions on how you want to spend your time and how you want to live life.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, because again, it's the brain loves evidence. So it like wants that evidence of like, okay, we're seeing the changes. So I love that you shared just within 2 weeks, people are noticing the evidence, and that it's not just about removing something from your life, but it's about that deeper transformation, that the alcohol is not necessarily the problem. It's that coping mechanism for what the deeper problem is. And that once we start to get to the root of it, it may be just a less desire to even have alcohol at that point, because you're fulfilled in a different way. So it's so beautiful to have that complementary practice in there with the removing of the alcohol for that time period. So it's powerful. I can, sugar was always my thing. So I would always go to sugar, and I did that for 90 days. I removed all refined sugar from my like diet and everything. And I can tell you the clarity I had in that, and just felt lighter and just so free. I can really speak on like when you remove some of those things that you always go to and stress, it makes a huge difference. But absolutely love that. And can you talk about as far as like support systems? So for someone who's going through this and they're navigating this, they want more of this in their life, but maybe they're in like friend groups or family groups where this is kind of the norm. Can you talk about the value of finding support or any support that's given in the process?
So we are social animals. Like, this
Mhm.
is our nature. We are not wired to be alone.
Yeah.
And I think that there's this sort of idea, especially for women, that we have to be very strong, very independent. We need to be able to do everything, and we don't need no man, and we don't need anybody. And if we choose to have someone in our lives, it's just to like be like I don't know, like a second side character, but not like the main character,
Mhm.
right? And by thinking like that, the only thing that we do is isolate ourselves, and
Mhm.
we take on everything. We take care of absolutely everything because we don't learn how to delegate. We don't learn how to share responsibility. We
Mhm.
just take on a lot. And again, I'm not blaming women because a lot of the responsibilities just like fall on us automatically without us even asking for them, right? But I think it's just like a cycle that is very difficult to get out of because we just accept these responsibilities without even questioning them. And yes, we are very stressed. We are, well, everything just that it's our responsibility, and that is so so difficult. And when we like when people studied how our ancestors lived, they were always in tribes.
Mhm.
People grew children with their tribes, with more people. They were not alone. Like,
Mhm.
it takes a village, right?
Mhm.
So that is actually that is true. And then um I'm talking about mums, but it doesn't need to be
Mhm.
necessarily mums. Because I talk to a lot of people that don't have kids and choose to not have kids, and they might feel very isolated as well. Because again, our lives are suited to live alone because we work and then we go home where we're alone or a partner or a family, and that's it. And we sleep, and that's it, right? And feeling those connections, feeling loved, and feeling surrounded by others is key for
Mhm.
you to feel fulfilled, for you to feel like you have actually got something to do in your life, you have a purpose, right? Because again, it's in our nature. We need to feel those connections and those real connections.
Mhm.
So, people that tell me that they have environments, as you said before, they have environments where everybody drinks. Like, for example, in their family, everybody drinks, and they go out with a group of friends and everybody's drinking as well. First, I would always encourage people to do what I was saying before of trying that other drink
Mhm.
without alcohol, that the other, like the alternative without alcohol. So maybe they don't stand out, but they are still surrounded by those people. And then maybe when they're sober, they will realize that that is not actually giving it's not fulfilling the need of connection that they
Mhm.
have, right?
Yeah.
So something that is very, very powerful is opening yourself to new hobbies, to new friendships, to meeting new people. And something that I always talk about, and I always tell people that the people that I help, um, is that when we're little, when we're kids, we do so many extracurricular activities.
Mhm.
Now we go to play the piano, and now we go to dance or football or this or that or volleyball. Like, we do so many things, and our bodies, our minds learn that doing this hobby is a very good way for us to deal with our emotions
Mhm.
because we're connected.
Mhm.
It's not mind and body separate. Our bodies store a lot of tension, and if we release it through sport or through hobbies, then our body gets used to that. But then we go to college or we start work, and that's gone. And
Mhm.
then maybe we go to the gym, and that's it. You know.
Mhm.
So I always encourage people that have that situation where they're like, everyone around me drinks alcohol. I'm like, okay, what did you enjoy doing as a kid? Did you enjoy, I don't know, playing an instrument or playing this sport or doing this or doing that? Obviously, adapting it to the age that you have and your abilities that you have right now. But maybe you can start a new hobby, right? That makes you feel that connected to other people. And that can actually help so, so much because
Mhm.
it's a new door not only to meet new people, but also to connect with your emotions in a different way that you haven't been doing for the past many years, but you
Yeah.
used to do when you were a kid.
Yeah, that creative connection is so powerful. And it's like you're so right. So many of us just get into this adulthood and we just leave ourselves behind. And that's exactly my audience. It's like that self-abandonment. We literally abandon ourselves in the process. We do what everybody thinks we're supposed to do. And we try to meet those expectations. But it's like coming back home to yourself. And I love that you suggest connecting with like what you enjoyed as a child because that's your true essence. That's what's within you. And it's like we may have forgotten about that person for 20 or 30 years. And it's like, how can we come back home to that person, that little person and within us that we can grow from within? So I absolutely love that suggestion. And it's so powerful to bring that creative aspect and spirit into our lives again. For someone who's listening that they're like, okay, I don't know if like alcohol is, I don't, is the coping mechanism. I kind of feel like it is, and I'm stressed all the time. I don't know what to do. And, can you speak to that person? Like, what's the first step to deciding and choosing themselves and choosing something different in this moment rather than continuing on and maybe investing in themselves in this moment?
I will say a very powerful sentence. What you're not changing, you're choosing.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually choosing not to change. So, yes, it might be very scary for you to take that step because yes, you don't know what's going to happen when you cross that bridge, right? But if you choose to stay exactly how you are right now, then you're choosing this path as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you see the consequences now. Yes, you're in control. Yes, you know everything. You control everything around you. But does that make you happy? Does that make you feel fulfilled? Because if you are reconsidering something, it's because maybe you're not comfortable in this position,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you don't take that opportunity to actually change, then you're choosing to stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I have to remind myself a lot because it's very, very difficult to think of or to have in mind, at least for me, um, is that the world is constantly changing. We try to control everything, but actually we cannot control not even 1 ounce of it. Like it's just everything happens, and we think that we can control so many more things that we can actually control.
Yeah.
So anything can happen. Like literally, we cannot be here tomorrow. Like literally anything can happen. And we live on autopilot and we don't take consequences for our actions and our situations. We don't address them and change them if we are not feeling comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we're not changing it, we're choosing. And we just we're just wasting our time, right? I talk to so many people that when they have done this change and they've gone through this path and they've learned how to either moderate or completely stop drinking alcohol, they say, I should have done this 10 years before.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
they were just scared of doing this, but now that they've crossed that bridge, they're like, oh my God, this is so much better because I can be more in connection with who I am.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, it might be painful, it might be difficult. You might need to get out there, meet new people, or not. Maybe you just talk about it with a friend and that friend says, "Oh my God, I've been feeling the same. Can we do it together?" Because that
Mm-hmm.
that happens a lot too. And I
Mm-hmm.
see it
Yeah.
people that have and they're scared of sharing it, and then once they share it, they see that people around them are actually feeling exactly the same like they are.
Yeah.
So I always encourage people to just try, give yourself a chance to try new things, to get out there. And the worst that can happen is that you go back to square one. You go back exactly how you're right now. And
Mm-hmm.
you are considering it as an option.
Mm-hmm.
So then just get yourself out there and try different things. There are so many tools out there. And
Mm-hmm.
for example, the one that we offer in unconscious moderation is very, very powerful. But I always encourage people to keep going. If you
Mm-hmm.
feel like unconscious moderation has worked, maybe you can complement it with something else in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are many, many tools out there that are very, very effective, and you just need to find what works for you. So just don't lose hope.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And that's so true. That statement is so powerful, but it is completely true. And it's just, for anyone who's listening, like you are completely worth being the best version of yourself. And whatever that looks like, allow yourself to have that gift to grow into that and become that, actually unveil that because you are that already, but unveil it and don't allow yourself to be shrouded anymore. And so for someone who wanted to connect with you and check out the app, where can they find you?
So the app, they can find it in App Store, Google Play. It's Unconscious Moderation. And if they want to learn a bit more about the program, who's behind it, and well, we have a lot of things explained in the website, they can check um.app, so um.app. And yeah, they can find absolutely everything in there. And we also have our Instagram, a app, and they will find us.
Amazing. I'll put everything in the show notes. So for anyone listening, definitely check it out. And thank you so much for everything you shared today. Like I said, on this podcast, you never know what seed is going to be planted that may not be immediate, but may grow. And next month, you might be like, I remember that podcast. Like maybe I'll check it out. So you just never know what's going to stick and what will transform your life. So thank you for everything you shared today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. And again, for everyone who's listening, if you know someone who could really benefit from this, share it with them so that they can also receive these messages. And again, thank you for everyone who tuned in today. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. If there was something in this episode that really resonated with you or a message that stuck with you, please share it with someone else. It's only through sharing these messages that we can start to rewire our minds to feel empowered and to live the life that we truly desire. Please subscribe so you never miss an episode. And again, thank you so much for tuning in to Rewiring Health.